Hey guys, what up? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today's video I'd like to share some tips and tricks on how you can improve the playback performance when editing on Vegas Pro. So the Vegas Pro I'm currently using is the version 19. Okay, so if you're using the older version, you can follow along with this tutorial because it is applicable to all versions of Vegas Pro. Alright, so the video that I have in the timeline was shot in 4K. Now if I play the video in the timeline, it should play in real time, and my project setting here is at 4K resolution, and I'm playing it at the best full quality. Now the reason why I can get this real-time playback is because first of all, my computer met the minimum requirement of Vegas Pro. Alright, so make sure your computer at least meet the minimum requirement, and you should able to get this buttery smooth playback in the timeline. Okay, however, if your timeline got complex, it will eventually lag. Okay, so this is pretty much normal in every editing program. When the timelines get super big and complex, it will eventually slow down on you. Okay, alright, so let's just assume your computer does not really meet the minimum requirement, or it's just lag on you somehow. There's 3 ways on how you can improve the playback performance. Okay, so the first method is to enable GPU acceleration. Okay, and I think at 2021 most laptops and even computers should at least have a decent graphic cards, so you want to take advantage of GPU decoding in order to decode the video in the timeline. Okay, so you can enable GPU acceleration in Vegas Pro. It's pretty easy. Just go to options, preference, and this preference window will pops out, and you go to video tab and you should see GPU acceleration here. Okay, now Vegas Pro should be smart enough to detect what kind of graphic cards you're using, which is in this case my computer using the RTX 2060 from NVIDIA. Okay, you want to select the graphic cards that you use. Okay, now you can also allocate certain percentage of dynamic RAM preview, but take note that dynamic RAM preview has nothing to do with playback performance. It's just that it will render a certain portion of the selection you made in the timeline, and it will store that pre-rendered clip on your RAM temporarily. Okay, so this is a like sort of a cache render. Okay, so you can allocate certain percentage if you want, and the one that make a big difference here is the GPU accelerations. Okay, so once you pick your graphic cards, you want to go to File IO and make sure your hardware decoder is to set on auto, or just pick the graphic card you use. Okay, which in this case I'm using NVIDIA graphic card, and it should appear here. If you're using AMD graphic card, it should say something AMD over here. Okay, so once you select everything, you press apply and hit OK and restart your Vegas Pro. Okay, so that's method number 1, which is use GPU acceleration to get a real-time playback. So the next method here is to create a proxy file for your video. Okay, so you can create a proxy for a higher resolution video. For example, this video here, this 3 video here in the timeline is 4K resolution. You can create a proxy for all of these 3 video. So to create a proxy, just simply go to project media, and you can select all of these 3 video, right click and press create video proxy over here. Once you click that, Vegas will automatically create a proxy file, and if you pay attention, right on the bottom left section of the Vegas Pro interface, you should see the status, the progress bar, which tells you the percentage of generating the proxy file. Okay, while Vegas is creating a proxy file, the media in the timeline will be offline temporarily because Vegas is basically make another duplication of this clip in a smaller file resolutions. Now this file will be located right beside your video clip, and the file is called as FVPO. Okay, this is the proxy file. Okay, so if you delete this file, you eventually delete the proxy. Simple as that. So to see the proxy, you just have to switch the preview quality to preview auto. So whatever below preview auto all the way to draft is basically using the SFVPO file over here. Okay, so as you can see, the video quality on the preview is really pixelated, but you get a better playback performance. Okay, so I think with this kind of quality, it should be fine enough for you to see what's going on in the timeline, I mean on the preview, while getting a pretty solid playback performance. Okay, so that's the second method, which is create a proxy. And the final method, which I always use a lot, is to edit in smaller resolution environment. Okay, so as you can see, this video, all of this video here was shot in 4K, and let's just say that I want to export this video in 4K. So it makes sense to edit in 4K environment and then export out in 4K. However, instead of editing in 4K environment, you can just change it into a smaller resolution like 1080p. So when you edit everything here in 1080p resolution, Vegas Pro will assume everything in Full HD, hence it doesn't need a lot of computing power to decode the video in timeline, because the project was set in Full HD, not in 4K. So the lower the resolution, the much faster, the much less computing power required to basically decode the video in the timeline. However, there is one caveat. Okay, so let's just say I add a titles and text. Okay, I write something random over here, and I even add a generated media. Okay, and let's say I duplicate this text here. Yes, now the problem when editing in lower resolution project settings, all of these generated media are generated based on your project resolutions. Now the video will stay 4K no matter what, but the titles and text here and even the solid color here are generated, again like I said, in the project resolution. So if I open up the video media generator and see the frame size, you can see it's 1920 by 1080. Same goes for the solid color here. Now before rendering, you will need to change back the project to 4K, because you want to export this thing in 4K. But when you switch it back, this text won't switch back. And if I open it up, you can see it's still in 1920 by 1080. Now imagine if you have a bunch of text like subtitles, for example. It's not a easy task to change all of this frame size one by one. It's not really convenient, and it is tedious to do that. Okay, so there is a method on how you can do everything in one click. So let's say you already changed your project resolution to 4K, and you want to change back all of this generated media to 4K. All you have to do is just Control A to select everything in the timeline, and then you go to Tools, Scripting, and Resize Generated Media, and that will automatically resize all of these titles and text into the resolution of the project settings that you have set. Okay, so you can now render out this video in 4K, and everything in the timeline will be in 4K resolutions. So that's the tips and tricks that I often use when editing in Vegas Pro. So I hope you learned something new in this tutorial, and if you have something, if you have question related, you can leave it down in the comment section. So see you guys next time. Bye bye.